So now we need to fix how this price works and how it is displayed when we actually select a different item, because obviously the price will not be the same based off of these variances. Now, if the price is the same, it doesn't really matter because what we're going to do here is going to change regardless. It's going to change it even if it's the same price. So to do this, we're going to be using jQuery. Now, jQuery is a JavaScript library, and there's a lot to it, so we're not really going to get into much of jQuery. We're just going to show you how to do a very simple thing with jQuery to change the price as we'd like. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into our base.html. And we already have our JavaScript included, so let's double check inside of JavaScript that jQuery is included, and it is. So jQuery is included by default with Bootstrap, and it's something we've already added. So that means in our base.html, we can add a new block that handles our jQuery. Now, this isn't required. You don't have to do it this way, but it's a shortcut to get your jQuery working. So we're going to do script, close off the script. I'll give it some room on the bottom here so we can see it a little bit better. And then to initialize jQuery, we do document, so $ parentheses document dot ready, and then we do function, just like that. So this is how we initialize jQuery to make sure that the document's ready to have jQuery work. And if we wanted to check that, we could run an alert. So you could say alert, hello. So if we go back into our page, we do this, and now it runs this page alert, which is good. So that's showing us that jQuery is working. So inside of here, we can do block jQuery, and then, of course, do in block after. So this will allow us to run jQuery code on any of our templates, just like we do with the block content. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this entire thing, and then go into our product detail page. And right at the top, I'm going to add in this block as well. I don't need the function stuff anymore. I'm going to leave those script tags just for auto completion inside of Sublime Text, but those script tags are not necessary either. All right, so now that we have this jQuery stuff, we need to kind of figure out what we want to do here. We want to change the object price based off of the option that is currently selected. So the first thing that we'll do is actually change the option based off of the one that's currently selected. So the easiest way to do all that is we set IDs and variables for various things. So the option, each option value, we're going to add a attribute called data price. Now this is an arbitrary attribute, but what I want to do is get the price of the object, whatever that price is, so the variance object. So we'll do vari_obj.price, and that should give us the variance price for each value, even if it's the same price. That part doesn't really matter. It's just about getting that data itself. So now that we have this option, we want to add a class or an ID to the select. In this case, I'm just going to add a class, and I'm going to call this class a variation select. So variation select. And it's literally the variation select button or drop down. So this class is how we're going to be able to refer to all this stuff, which you'll see in just a moment. And then our price, we want to add an ID to it, and we'll say ID equals to price. So we can actually select that price. Now, without getting into too much jQuery, let's actually see what you can do with jQuery. So to use a selector, that is to select something in here, there's all kinds of things that you can do. So like if we did H3, we could say css.css and color, and we could say red. So that's a really easy H3 tag changing. Oops, we want to put these into quotes. And we can change all of the H3 tags to a different CSS color. And using those quotes is how you do it. So this right here is called a selector. So to use selectors, we can either get the actual attribute. So like if I did div color, it's going to change all of my colors, right? Which is really cool. So it's getting all the div tags here. And if I wanted to change the image to being something different, I could do img. But if you notice with the div, it changes all of the divs to being that specific color. We could change all the A tags to being that color, and literally all of them change. It's really, really cool and fast on how it does all that stuff. But really, it's just setting CSS, so it's really not that big of a deal. So just like in CSS, we can actually grab different things in here. So within CSS, if I was going to try and change the color of just the ID of price, the CSS would be something like this. It would be hashtag price, and then it'd be color red. So that's how the CSS would work. So this part is still the same selector. So right here, I can actually use this as price, and that will now be the selector for this new ID that we set. Now, of course, if it was a class like a variation select, which is something we'll use, in CSS it'd be dot variation select and color red. Right? So it's not a whole lot different for using jQuery. We would use the $ quotes dot variation select. And that is the selector for that. Okay, so I'm going to delete the CSS stuff because we don't need it. So now that we've got this price, I can also set the text value of it to something different. So let's say, for instance, I set it to $79.99. And then I refresh in here. I now see that my price has changed, which is really cool. So variation select, on the other hand, is going to be this right here. So the entire select box here has the class of variation select. So we can actually test whether or not it changes. But before we do that, let's actually set that price, the initial price, to the current price of whatever the variation select dropdown is. So I'm going to say var price equals to $dot variation select, and then option. So it's going to go to option, the first option, and then, or excuse me, this is all options, and then we want to use selected. So this is getting the option that is selected, and then we're going to get the attribute from that option that's selected, data.price. So all I did here was say look for the class that's called variation select, which is this one right here, and then look for an option that is selected. And it grabbed that first one. Whatever is the first one is going to be the one that's selected, or whatever is selected is going to get the attribute, which is this, either one of these, attribute, and we could add any attributes we want, and then we set data.price. So we set that equal to a JavaScript variable of price, and now we can set our initial price to price. So if we refresh in here, it now changes our initial price to that 16 gig price. Cool, so since we can do that, we can also check whether or not variation select changes by using .change. And all we do here is create a new function and parentheses, curly brackets, just like this. And now we can actually change our price again. So I can use this exact same thing for price, and again, this right here as well. So there we go. And we refresh. If I change it, it's now going to allow me to change the price based on whatever is in the current selected option. So this is also very cool because then we could do other things if we wanted. We could also set images. So data-img, you could put an image URL here. So let's go, I'm going to just copy a URL for an image real quick, and I paste this image URL. So this is a live image URL. And now if we have our variation changing, we could also get the variation image. So let's say img, data img, and we can change the image itself. So let's just say class image responsive. Instead, I'll just say ID equals to, and we will give it as img. And now we'll say img.attribute source is equal to img. So if I refresh in here and change this, nothing happens. Well, the thing about how you actually set this is it's not just like this. So if we look back in here and go to inspect element, what it's going to say to us, it says invalid left-hand side in assignment. So you can't actually assign it that way. Instead, you just change it just like this. So this is actually changing it to a different image. So let's refresh in here. If we change it, then it actually changes the image even. So this is actually pretty cool. So you could have other variance images. This is not something we're going to cover, but you could have other variance images that will actually change based on this exact same thing, and also the price. And notice the price will change, the image can change, all of that stuff, which is really, really cool. Now, there's a lot of things that you could do with images that we're just not going to cover, but this is something that you absolutely can and possibly should do if you were actually building a fully dynamic data image thing just like that. But for us, I'm going to go ahead and actually I'll comment that out so you guys can see it in the in the documentation. So I'm going to copy it and comment it out. But we are not going to actually use that because it is not necessary for what we are working on here. And I'm going to comment it out there too. Okay, so going back in here, we refresh. We can now see that there's a different price. So this price right here doesn't actually affect what the end price actually would be. The price here would actually only affect what's being displayed, right? So it's not actually affecting the variable or the variance itself. So there's another thing that we should actually think about with this variant object, and that is data price. So data sales price, so sale price. And we would want to put this in here as well. So we'll do vari object.sale price. So we've got the sale, we have the price, and then we can put the sale price in here. And we'll say sale price and data dash sale price. And then we can do an if statement. So if sale price is not equal to an empty string, then we're going to put our price as this, as our sale price. And we might want to have our original price too, so we'll do plus and a space and our original price, possibly with a strike through with it and stuff like that, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. And then otherwise, we'll say else. Refresh in here. So none of these, the 250 has a sale price, and notice it shows it up right at the beginning. And we would want to do that with each one, right? So this function right here, or what's going on here, should actually be a function itself. So we'll say function, and we're going to give it a name of set price. And we're going to cut this out here, paste it in here, tab these back a little bit, and cut this out. Now I'm just going to go and paste set price in each one of these. So if it changes, it's going to set the price. If it doesn't, then it won't. All right, so we save that, refresh, and now when it loads on, it shows the different prices that are actually coming through, which is really cool. So if we wanted to get even more dynamic with this, we might want to change actually how it's being rendered completely. To do this, we would just change this to HTML as well as this, and we can set the price here, and we'll call it H3. We'll add an H3 tag here, and then plus sale price plus closing H3. In fact, let's put the plus closing H3 at the very end. And then for price, we'll just put a small tag with a style in here and put it equal and use single quotes, 2 single quotes, close that off, and then close off the small tag inside of here. So this is going to give us that spacing that we want for the sale price. So let's go back in and we'll refresh in here. And if we change it, it now shows us all the different ones. Notice 1 terabyte is saying none and 199, which is not what we want to see. So 250, 16 gigs, that's good. So in here, we also might want to double check our sale price issue. So it's saying this. We might want to make sure that it's also not something different. And also with the sale price, we might want to add a style to saying color and red and text decoration line dash through. All right, so that gives us a little bit more of a dynamic sale, and we might even say sale price or original price. Okay, so that shows us that. And then finally the none, we want to actually change our if statement. Add an or in here, say sale price is not equal to none. And another or, sale price is not equal to null, if for some reason it is. So we go back in, refresh, and we click the different ones. And finally 1 terabyte, it's still saying none. So if we go back in here, it looks like our sale price is still coming in as none. Let's do and there we go. So that fixes it, and we did this if statement. It says any of these, all of these true, then we will go ahead and run this as 1 terabyte, and there we go. So it's actually showing us what's actually going to be displayed for the price on each level, which is really cool. And again, if you do the images, that's something you definitely can do and might consider doing, but if you do it that way, it might confuse how the user actually interacts with the site, which in some cases works out really well. But if you wanted to have a carousel here, like showing multiple images, having this override what that image is, sometimes can get a little confusing. So it's really going to be up to you on how you want to choose that. Now, if you have any questions on this, let us know. Otherwise, let's keep going.